Welcome back. So we're talking about commodities now, domestic agri-commodities, and of course putting it in context with the new CBN FX policies for the market and how this will definitely be affecting commodities. Okwemi Oguntade is a senior economic research analyst with financial derivatives company. She joins me now. Okwemi, good morning to you and thank you for coming on the program.
Good morning. Hi.
Of course, one of the burning economic issues highlighted by financial derivatives company in its latest report today is this new FX policies. And if you listen to Omotola, he still talked about the fact that we might not begin to say hooray just yet, because these 41 items that have been prohibited from accessing FX at the official window will still be going to the parallel market, and we might still continue to see that divergence between the two rates. Do you agree?
Well, yes, the question of the 41 items is still an issue for the market, but the important thing to note is that we are saying that there's a segment of the parallel market that is now going to be able to access Forex at 366 Naira to $1. So that's definitely going to lift pressure off the parallel market. Now, the question of how soon there's going to be a convergence between the parallel market and the official market is something the CBN has to still consider, because if they don't address there was no mention of the 41 items in the circular, and if we still have pressure at that market, then obviously there will still be a spread. But we also have to allude to and make mention of the fact that there's pressure coming off from that market to 366. But the problem with the foreign exchange market now is we're adding an additional layer to the already fragmented market, and this would obviously open up the market for to open the market to more abuse and allow traders to engage in more round tripping, which obviously they're going to take advantage of. But what is important, the good news about this new policy is that you're lifting off some pressure from the parallel market to the new layer of 366.
Does that also now give more space for the importation of rice? Because you see, the 41, the rice was among the items that were actually prohibited from accessing Forex.
Yes.
Now, you have this at 366, 375, as the case may be, depending on how the banks decide to calculate that day using the IFM rate. Now, you have somebody who is a manufacturer of rice going to the bank now and says, I'm a manufacturer. And brings documents to prove there's a manufacturer without clearly stating that they're importing rice. And then you have the issue of having imported rice, because these people still go to access this Forex to import rice. And taking a look at what we've seen in the last couple of days, some people have managed to, I don't know how, bypass Nigerian customs, NAFDAC and the rest of it. Now we have Indian Gari.
Yes, I saw about that. I was really surprised to see Indian Gari in the Nigerian market, because we know Nigeria is like the top producer of cassava, and it's cassava that is used to make Gari. So I guess the question here is the procedures you go through to make Gari comes into question. There are a number of procedures that you have to go through, and probably the reason why they're moving towards the Indian markets to import Gari is probably because it's cheaper, in the sense that to produce it, they have the mechanical equipment to produce the Gari, as opposed to here in Nigeria where you have to go through the manual process of converting cassava to Gari. But going back to your question about the 41 items and rice. Now, if we notice what's going on in rice, in the market for rice, there's been an increase in domestic production of rice, and this has helped to bring down the prices of rice. And there's also been a lot of smuggling through the land borders for rice, despite the fact that it has been included in the 41 items. One item in particular that's been included in the 41 items that we've seen that prices have been going up consistently because of lower supply is palm oil. Palm oil is currently about 24,500 Naira for 25 liters. So palm oil is one of the, that's where you see, some commodities getting expensive, but some commodities have been able to escape this 41 items ban, so to speak, because of smuggling issues, and also because of there's been an increase in domestic production.
But for how long do you think this will last? For how long do you think that the market will absorb this new policies and run with it for it to begin to have an immediate effect on the importers, for instance, of all of these commodities that we use to make basic products that we use here in Nigeria?
Okay, so I'll use flour as an example. Once the flour millers were able to put in their bids for their forwards and be able to get their forwards, we saw that the price of flour came down marginally from about 11,000 to 10,500. That's what happened with flour. Now, the question here is, before we can see a significant impact amongst other commodities in the market, the CBN has to ensure that it is consistent in delivering on these policies and ensuring that the supply is available to the market. Because if we're going by what happened with the forwards and futures, there was a lot of speculative demand because a lot of people weren't sure about when next there would be a
but
forward.
now that you know
2 months.
Exactly,
it's 2 months, and then the CBN has also said there'll be 1 million available every week for this, these 3 users. That's those that are going to make use of Forex for school fees, medical, tourism, and as well as travel allowance. Now, if that is consistent, we should see that the rates should converge over time, but not immediately, because the market is still suffering from a confidence crisis.
Okoyemi Oguntade, thank you so much for joining us on the program and sharing your perspectives with us.